Hey there, everybody. This is Gary from Constricted and Addicted. I just finished up a wonderful interview with Kelsey's Constrictors tonight, which will be premiering on February 4th, I believe it is, which is a Thursday, the first Thursday of February. So look out for that. I'll be posting something on my Instagram. It was a great interview. I got to learn a lot about her. I can't wait to share her with you. And what I wanted to do today was I haven't put a video out in a little bit. Got a lot of stuff going on. But typically I like to put out one video a week. So today what I wanted to do is just kind of go through what are some of the tools that I have here in my house for handling my snakes. I think it's important as a reptile keeper in my own, my own deal is that I have what I believe to be proper tools. And where did I get the ideas for the proper tools? Well, I research YouTube, I research Vin Russo's book, I research a lot of things. I watch what people do, and if it looks like what they're doing is keeping them safe and keeping the responsible handling in play, well, that's what I want to do as well. And it's just a few tools. It's not like a whole lot, but there's some things that I use that to me they are really, really important, as I have learned over the years in my own reptile keeping, that makes a better and enjoyable experience for me and my snakes. So the first tool that I'm going to share with you is a snake hook. I have a rather large snake hook for my larger snakes, and I have a rather short hook for the smaller snakes. Now, what I do with the hook is basically I will rub the hook on the snake, and that will just let the snake know that, hey, I'm coming into your enclosure. I'm going to be very honest and say that I do not do this with every one of my snakes. I think in saying what I just said, that it's good practice to get into to actually rub the snake, because we never know, it can happen. We take for granted, or I take for granted, that every time I go in and pick up a snake, it's not going to bite me. I take for granted my boa constrictors don't really have a strong feeding response. The only time their feeding response gets turned on is when I'm actually putting a prey item in front of them. I take that for granted all the time. Now I've got a super dwarf retake that every time I open up her enclosure, whether she is active or not, she's sleeping in her warm spot, I take the hook and I just gently rub her body with it. And what that does is, first of all, it lets her know that, hey, what's going on? He's coming in here. If you've ever experienced a retake, which like just the other day, she shed, and she was very active. And I opened up her drawer, and when I did, she looked right at me. I mean, she squared right up with me. So there are times when I open up a drawer and I might be associated with feeding an animal. So I think this is a very important tool that personally I need to get into the habit of using more often. The boa constrictors have got me kind of lazy on that, especially when you've got the larger snakes. When you get a large snake that latches onto you, it can be a very daunting situation to get them off. And what I've heard is mouthwash, cold water, credit cards. These are all items that you can use to release the grip from the snake. But the reality is that they typically will latch on and they're not going to let go. And the worst thing you can do is try to pull them off. So snake hooks are extremely important if you want to maintain a safe handling experience between you and your animal. So many, many times I'll watch YouTube and I'll come across a handler who is dangling their prey item by the tail for the snake. And if people do that, that's great. I think it's very dangerous. I've seen too many videos where the snake will actually miss, or they will misread the prey item and see your wrist, and then they go after your wrist instead of the prey item. And next thing you know, you've got a snake latched onto you. Personally, I don't do that. I don't want to get bit. That's like the number one thing for me is don't get bit. So I use tongs, and I've got quite a few juvenile snakes. So the juvenile snakes, I will use the smaller tongs on, and basically I will position myself in a way that even if they miss, they're not going to get me. So what I like to do is position myself kind of behind the snake, and then I will dangle the prey item over their head, so when they strike, they're actually striking away from me. And when I feed these guys in the larger enclosures, I use larger tongs. I will use this set of tongs for my Super Dwarf Retic, for Max, and for Coconut. And that really does give me a nice long distance to keep myself from any sort of strike range or being mistaken for a prey item. I've seen it before. People will even use tongs, and the snake completely goes right by the tongs and wraps onto their wrist. So again, I don't want to get bit. I'm going to use tongs. And I think that positioning yourself in a manner where if the snake even misses, it doesn't have the opportunity to get a hold of you is important as using the tongs to feed your snakes. I do it. That's just me. You know, if anybody's watching this video and you do hold your prey item by the tail, this is not a knock at you. This is just something that I personally would not do. So in my arsenal, I believe tongs are an extremely important tool, and the size of the tongs will be dependent upon the size of the snake that you are feeding. Now here's another tool that I like to have around. I have quite a few of these, and they're just misters. What they do is I go around and I make sure that the humidity stays up in my enclosures. I was using Cocoa Blocks for a long time. Actually, I'm going to go back to Cocoa Blocks. I've got all my snakes on paper towels at this point in time, and that is because when they go to the bathroom on the paper towels, it's much easier to see it than if they are on Cocoa Blocks. But the Cocoa Blocks just really maintains that humidity so much better than the paper towels. And I think that having them on the paper towels now for as long as I have, it's disciplined me enough to make sure that when I go into their enclosure, I'm looking for the poop and I'm not missing it. But I always have sprayers nearby so that I can make sure that their enclosures have adequate humidity, especially when they are in shed and they need a little extra. So I've got one in this room, I've got one in the other room, and then I've got one in the back room. And they're always full of water. They're very, very helpful for me, and it just really does aid in keeping that humidity where I need it to be at all times. Before I show you my last tool, I'm going to show off Max. I actually got questioned about Max. How's he doing? Max is doing most amazing. This guy right here is just one of my most favorite animals. Just he's not a giant in any way, shape, or form, but he is a fairly heavy-bodied boa constrictor, and he's just one of the most gentle guys that I have in my collection. I really love this guy. He shed not too long ago, so his patterns are really nice and vibrant. He's just a gripper. He's one of these animals that you have that you just never really worry about. You can hold him. The only thing that I worry about with Max is if he's going to grip me too tight, because he is a gripper. He loves to hang on, so it's really important that I watch when he goes around my neck, because I've got a saying, if you can't get them off your neck, then they don't belong around it. And Max does like to go around necks, and when he does, he can tend to get a little tight. So it's just important that I make sure that I keep my distance between his strength and my neck. So Max is doing great. He's one of my favorites, and I figured I'd bring him in the video today just to show him off a little bit and let everybody know he is doing great. All right, the last tool I'm going to present or show to me is like the most important tool in the collection. If you don't have a hook, if you don't have feeding tongs, if you don't have a mister, you've got to have a temp gun. The temp gun is going to tell you what your temperatures are on point in your enclosures. I mean, I have had thermostats go bad. Matter of fact, I had one go bad about a year ago, and I happened to catch that all of my snakes were all at the front of the enclosure. and I went to go check, and my thermostat got locked at like 107 degrees. Once I took a temp reading of that heat mat, I realized what happened. I threw the thermostat away, bought a new one. But these are important, even spot checking. Every time I clean an enclosure, every time I even move a snake, I'm usually pulling the heat gun out. Just, it's kind of OCD for me. I check, I do a temp reading. I make sure, sometimes I'm always kind of fumbling with the thermostat. If it's like at 87, I want to bring it up to one more notch, just a little bit closer to 90 degrees. And I get that by being able to check the temps on my with the temp gun. The other thing is that I have two thermostats in each enclosure. I monitor both ends, so I have one end set at 75. Oh, you're such a big goof. I have one end set at 75, so I want to make sure that that end is reading correctly. Oh, Max. And then I have the other end set at 90 degrees. So when I go in there, I want to make sure that there's a 90 degree reading or close to a 90 degree reading, and there's a 75 or close to 75 degree reading on the other side. And for me, that's just for optimum health of my animals and making sure that I have them in a safe environment. This right here will save your animal's life. And will definitely make your life easier when you're regulating the temperatures in your enclosures. Heat guns, these are a must-have. All right, everybody. Hey, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for watching this video. I want to thank all the subscribers that I get. I can't do this without you. And, this isn't why I do this, right? Like, I just love to show my animals off and put some information out there and make it available. Because when I was looking for boa constrictor care early on, it wasn't a whole lot of boa constrictor stuff. It was a lot of ball python. There were some boa constrictors, and they were very helpful boa constrictor owners. And I needed what they had. But this is why I do this, So the people that are subscribed to my channel and the people that comment on my channel, I really appreciate you. And I want to do more for this channel. There's a lot of things that I have in store for 2022. And I think that it really starts with this interview process that I'm doing with breeders and friends of mine on Instagram, and bringing them in and sharing them with you, and exposing them to more viewers, and maybe having their viewers exposed to me, and really just sharing our love and our passion for this hobby in general. So I really hope you guys like this content. Message me if you need anything, if you want anything, want me to cover anything, and I would love to do that. The other thing I'm going to do here soon is I'm going to be giving away a snake. So as soon as I have the details on that, I will put some information out on that, and we'll see how that goes. But you guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next video.